Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to my chapter-by-chapter read-through of J.R.R. Tolkien's masterpiece, The Lord of the Rings. We have come to the end of the Fellowship of the Ring. This finishes my chapter-by-chapter examination of The Lord of the Rings. We are in the final chapter of the Fellowship, which, keep in mind, is not the end of a book. It's the end of a section of a book. It's a cliffhanger, yes, but this was not intended to be a trilogy of separate standing books. This is all one book. And we come to the chapter called The Breaking of the Fellowship. So Tolkien tips his hand right away. The remainder of the Fellowship is what we have here. We are lacking the wizard Gandalf. Or are we? There's a little detail in this chapter that I want to put before you. But we have everybody else. Well, everybody else, they've made their way out from Lothlorien. They are making their way by boat down the Anduin River. And it's not a happy fellowship. Not only because they are not sure what they're going to do past a certain point. Are they going to go straight east to Mordor in a sort of direct approach? Or are they going to go to Gondor, the kingdom of Boromir, the warrior man who is with them in the Fellowship? Are they going to go to Gondor so that Aragorn can give hope to the city? He is, after all, the king of Gondor. And from there, make their plans for what they're going to do, what way they're going to make into Mordor. Those ways have separate allures to them, but the other factor that's involved casts a shadow over the second one. And that factor is Boromir himself, who, as we've seen increasingly in these chapters after Lothlorien, is not at all happy with the quest to destroy the ring. He expressed his dissatisfaction at the Council of Elrond, and it seemed like he was put in his place. But as we've seen, he has not been. He is rancorous. The ring is eating at him. Even from a distance, even when it's being worn by someone else, it's eating at him. As he says in this chapter, he makes the same argument that he did at the Council of Elrond. He says, why are we talking of hiding and destroying? Why don't we use this against the enemy? It's the only thing that might win. And Gondor is hard-pressed. Mordor is beating us at every turn. We need a weapon and the hand to wield it. He has been talked down. Everyone from Frodo to Aragorn to Gandalf has told him the ring is entirely evil. No one can use it for good. The person who put it on to fight in defense of Gondor would have become its creature, would have become a new Dark Lord. Gandalf actually tells this to Boromir's father in The Return of the King. He makes it pretty explicit and pretty horrifying. He said, had your son brought you this thing that you so desire, when he came to your gates, you wouldn't have recognized him. He would have been changed. He would be evil. Those warnings just don't sink in to Boromir. He seems to be under the ring spell. We get a lot of camping and discussion, portage. Our characters are once again, they know that they're being shadowed. They know that they're being hunted. The pursuit doesn't seem particularly close in this chapter, but Aragorn is still worried because everyone in the Fellowship now knows that in addition to being hunted by the enemy, they're also being followed by Gollum. Somehow, he has managed to follow them all this time. He has managed to follow them through Moria, all the way to Lothlorien. He cannot give up the ring. He cannot let go of it. So he is following them. He's floating on a log behind them. They never catch a clear glimpse of them. They certainly can't get their hands on him. But Aragorn is worried that he will draw attention to their pursuers. So they need to come to decisions soon as to what to do. And they reach a point where Aragorn basically says, we can talk about this all day long, but ultimately it's Frodo's decision. He's the ring bearer. So, Frodo, what do you want to do? And Frodo has no idea. This is way too big for him. He has no idea. He insists on being left alone. He walks off into the wilderness. It's not particularly dangerous country. They're pretty sure that they can let him go for a few minutes without anyone going with him. He walks off into the wilderness, up a hill. He doesn't really know where he's going. It's actually the region, the area, the specific area where he's walking is rich in Middle-earth history. He doesn't know that, and readers don't get that, really, in this book. It's only if you read up, if you read into Tolkien, that you'll realize where they are. He can't come to a decision. He doesn't know what he should do. And he's in the throes of his indecision when suddenly someone joins him and sympathizes, having trouble making up your mind what to do. And to Frodo's growing horror, that someone is Boromir, who has slipped away from the rest of the Fellowship and followed him alone. This man who, as we're told, is more than twice his size and many times his strength, and who wants his ring, has followed him into the woods, into the forest, up onto a high ruined chair, allegedly to sympathize with him. Allegedly, Boromir wants to sympathize with him, goes on and on about how great a boon to Gondor the One Ring would be if it came to Gondor's aid. Frodo has to tell him again, that's not the way this works. The ring is entirely evil. It cannot be used for good. Boromir doesn't buy it. He isn't believing it at all, and he gets more and more angry as their talk goes on. Until finally, he says very innocently, but it will remind you of Bilbo saying the same thing in Rivendell. He says very innocently, all this talk of the ring when I have barely laid my eyes on it, could you take it out and let me see it again? And Frodo tells him no, it should stay hidden. But the situation is so tense that eventually Frodo finds himself on the other side of a flat stone, keeping the stone between himself and Boromir, and finally becomes too much for Boromir. He changes. He screams that he will take the ring, that it belongs to him, that it's only unlucky chance that it came to Frodo, that it belongs to Gondor. And he lunges at Frodo. And Frodo does, as Tolkien says, he does the only thing he can. He puts on the ring, so that he will vanish from Boromir's sight. And he does. Boromir is astounded, and looks around, and thrashes around, and finally trips and falls. And that is enough to bring him to his senses, at least momentarily. He's astonished at what he's done, heartbroken at what he's done. He calls out to Frodo, it was a madness, and it has passed. But it's too late. Frodo isn't anywhere near him. Frodo has taken off. He has run with the ring, invisible. He climbs higher and higher onto this place, this high-storied place, and horrifically, in addition to seeing very clearly through the mists of the unseen, he sees very clearly all of Middle-earth. He sees Lothlorien, sees Rohan. In addition to that, he sees the eye of Sauron, and it is looking for him. Steadily, it is quartering the map, looking for who someone is wearing my ring. Who is it? And where exactly are there? Frodo, it's a horrifying scene. He can feel the eye getting closer and closer to where he is. It's slowly narrowing in on his precise location so that Sauron will see the wearer of the ring. At one point, when that's happening, let's see here. I'll read you the whole thing here because I have a question for you Tolkien fans. And suddenly he felt the eye. There was the eye in the dark tower that did not sleep. He knew that it had become aware of his gaze. A fierce, eager will was there. It leapt towards him, almost like a finger he felt it, searching for him. Very soon it would nail him down, just exactly where he was. Amon Law it touched, and glanced on tall Brandir. He threw himself from the seat, crouching, covering his head with his grey hood. Still got the ring on, though. It doesn't matter if you cover your head. He heard himself crying out, never, never. Or was it, verily, I come to you? Because the never, never is him. The verily, I come to you is the ring. He could not tell. Then, as a flash from some other point of power, there came to his mind another thought. Take it off. Take it off, fool. Take off the ring. My question, I always ask Tolkien fans this, is that Gandalf? Striving with the high tower, with the dark tower of Mordor. Is that Gandalf? I think it probably is. I think dovetailing this with Gandalf's story about his own recovery in the Two Towers, probably it is, but it's curious. Frodo takes the ring off just in time, so the Dark Lord does not know where he is. Now, this raises a question. I'll get to the question at the end, but it decides his mind, absolutely, that this ring is too dangerous. He has a second realization, like the one he had in the Shire, only stronger. This ring is too dangerous for anyone else to be involved with it other than him. It's his sole burden. Anyone else who's involved might turn like Boromir did. It's too dangerous. It brings too much danger on his friends. So he decides he will go off alone to Mordor. And he'll need a boat to do that. So he makes his way towards the boats with the ring on. He puts the ring back on so that he will not be observed. He doesn't want to be captured or found by Boromir or his friends. He wants to spare them all. Same reason he left the Shire. And we cut back to the Fellowship who are angrily discussing what they should do, what path Frodo will decide to take. The only person in the group who is under no doubt whatsoever what Frodo is going to do is Sam. Sam Gamgee knows perfectly well what Frodo's going to do. Of course he's going to go to Mordor. That's what he said he would do. He eventually says, begging your pardon, said Sam, I don't think you understand my master at all. He isn't hesitating about which way to go. Of course not. What's the good of Minas Tirith anyway? To him, I mean, begging your pardon, Boromir, he added, and turned. It was then that they discovered that Boromir, who at first had been sitting silent on the outside of the circle, was no longer there. Now where's he got to? Cried Sam, looking worried. He's been a bit queer lately to my mind. But anyway, he's not in this business. He's off to his own home, as he always said, and no blame to him. And Mr. Frodo, he knows he's got to find the cracks of doom if he can, but he's afraid. Now it's come to the point he's just plain terrified. That's what his trouble is. Of course he's had a bit of schooling, so to speak. We all have, since we left home. Or he'd be so terrified he'd just fling the ring into the river and bolt. But he's still too frightened to start. And he isn't worrying about us, either. Worrying will go along with him or not. He knows we mean to. That's another thing that's bothering him. If he screws himself up to go, he'll want to go alone. Mark my words, we're going to have trouble when he comes back. For he'll screw himself up all right, as sure as his name is Baggins. What Sam doesn't realize at that moment is that Frodo has already done that. He's already made that decision. But of course, Sam is completely right. And the others aren't. The others don't know his master as well as he does. And as they split off, they decide, oh my god, well, Boromir's been gone a long time. Frodo's been gone a long time. This isn't good. We had best go looking for them in this wilderness. They've been gone an hour. So they split up. Legolas and Gimli go off in one direction. Aragorn goes off in another direction. And Sam, he can't keep up with Aragorn, but he realizes soon that he doesn't need to. Because he thinks like Frodo. He thinks, well, I know what decision he's going to make. He's going to go off on his own with this ring, which means he's going to need provender and a boat. Which means I should go back to the boats. I shouldn't be going into the wilderness. I should be going to the boats. And he does. He goes off to the boats, and he finds Frodo. It's a scene that Peter Jackson does immortally well. Just amazingly well. And the Fellowship is at odds, because Boromir does come back to them, and is grousing, and grim, and refuses to say everything that has happened between him and Frodo. It's obvious to everybody immediately that something very bad has happened between him and Frodo, but he's unwilling to elaborate on it at all. So this ends the book. This ends book 2 of the Fellowship of the Ring. This ends the first part of this book in total disarray. Frodo and Sam have gone off to Mordor on their own. No Fellowship, barely any help at all, and the Fellowship itself is in complete disarray. Boromir is off. He knows not where. Aragorn tells him, go after the other 2 little hobbits, Merry and Pippin, see that no harm comes to them. We know how that's going to turn out. The Fellowship has fallen apart, all because Boromir turned into this ravenous creature that wanted the ring for himself. And that ends this read-along of not only the Fellowship of the Ring, but the whole of the Lord of the Rings. This was a lot of fun. I have not yet decided, believe it or not, what the next chapter-by-chapter read-along will be. I did not conduct a poll, and I did not ask for suggestions, but I've been bombarded with suggestions, and there are clear frontrunners. Very, very clear frontrunners. I would say it's split down the middle. There's a small but vocal Thomas Harris faction, but it's split, I would say, down the middle between Frank Herbert's Dune and Tolkien's Silmarillion. With The Hobbit, Tolkien's The Hobbit bringing up the rear. So, I haven't decided. We shall see. We shall see. But this was a lot of fun. So, I'm hoping that I can learn how to make a playlist and put all these things together, or maybe somebody else will do that. Let me know if you need my help to do that. But that is it for the Fellowship of the Ring. Dismay. The first part of this book ends in dismay and total disarray. So, we're going to wrap this up here. You can loop all the way around to my read-along of the beginning of the Two Towers to see what comes after this if you don't know. But I'm going to end this here, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.